Okay, I welcome you all to the Zoning Design Review Board meeting for Tuesday, June 12th, 2018, and I will call the meeting to order. Roll call?
Yes. Member Allen.
Here.
Member Denton.
Here.
Vice Chair Tigret.
Here.
Chair Cook.
Here.
Let the record show that Member Laz is excused.
Thank you. And I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Did any board members have any things they needed to change to the agenda? Would somebody make a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll move.
In a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed? All right, we've adopted our agenda. Did everybody review the minutes of the April 10th and May 8th meetings? And did you find any comments or things you need to change? Nope? Nope. Okay. Will somebody make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve.
In a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll have to abstain on the May 8. I wasn't present.
Oh,
but
that's right.
The April 10 is a yes for me.
Okay.
Approved.
Okay. So the minutes from the previous meetings are approved. We'll move on. Is there any public comment on items that are not on the agenda tonight? I don't see any action, so we will close that. And we will move on to the public hearing for 18-1744-6702 Washington for design review. And we do have a couple conflicts.
Yes, with that, I need to recuse myself because I live within too close proximity of the applicant.
I also have a conflict because I live within the conflict zone, but in order to make a quorum, I was told to stay.
They drew straws.
We drew straws.
The straw, I was the
And
winner.
impartial.
Yes. She was
Okay.
told following the drawing of straws.
Yes. So we will move on.
Okay. So we'll start the staff report. Good evening. Before you tonight is an application for a 32-inch fence that would go around the perimeter of 6702 Washington Street, located in the Old Town Historic District of the town. Just a little background on this property. As you know, it's the one that is in construction right now. In May of 2013, the ZDRB approved the design of the residence, but construction didn't commence within the 2 years, and so the design expired. And so then again, in November of 2015, the design was approved by the ZDRB. Approximately March of 2017, the lot was purchased, and then shortly thereafter, construction began on the new single-family residence. And during the construction, landscape elements were added, including a fireplace feature, a water feature, adjacent to the covered porch on the south elevation. And in an aesthetic that was initially consistent with these landscape features, the applicant proposed a new fence design, including iron slats and stone columns with flower pots on top. However, the applicant has let us know that they have some proposed design modifications. And so, as silly as it sounds, this concludes my staff report, so we can address or hear from the applicant what the new design is, and then staff is able to answer any questions that the ZDRB may have. The only thing that I'd note on is that while we consider the new design, we should remember that it should have that 32-inch maximum there. Any taller than there would be a violation of the municipal code. But other than that, we're going to be here to answer any questions that the board might have.
Does anybody have any questions for staff?
How does that 32 inches determine? Is that inclusive of the potted plants, or is that just the fence element?
Sorry, it's 3 feet, so 36 inches, my bad.
Yeah.
So the 36 inches would go to the top of the stone pillars, And then what was initially proposed with the design that you have right there, the fence portion was only 32 inches. But 36 is the max allowed by the code, that 3 feet. And it does not include the flower pots. Those are seen as just the occasional landscape feature rather than an actual part of the fence, because it isn't one continuous fence line that way.
Can we go with questions of staff first?
Yeah,
Okay.
up to you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd just like to continue with that. Did you?
That was
More
the
questions?
main
Do
questions.
you have any questions of
I'm
staff?
sorry.
Can I ask some general questions about this project?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sandra and I can both answer.
Do we have any available pictures of what was approved? I'm concerned, and I hear concern in the community that it's gotten way far off of what was approved. And I want to make it clear how we got there. Like,
I don't think we have the original photos for you tonight because the building itself is as was proposed and approved. The changes that you see are to the porch element and what was approved as a stone base support to that porch includes landscape elements that now feature the wine barrel water feature, the outdoor fireplace, and the wood wall. And we looked at those in terms of being landscape elements and other minor modifications to the design. So we approved them at staff level. And it was when they were proposing the fence that we got to feel that the scope of the changes were greater and that they should come back before you.
okay. So the deck, the trellis over the deck, over the garage, was all part of the original
Yes.
design?
Yes.
Were the timbers as oversized and massive in the drawings as they have been constructed?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I'm just getting a lot of questions.
Okay.
about The massiveness of this project. I don't remember it looking like that on the drawings. Okay. Then, if nobody has any more questions of staff, we can move on to the applicant. If you want to come up and some comments?
Hi, my name is Russell Bay, and my wife Lori Bay, and we're super excited to be part of the community. So we, of course, want to do everything, you know, that the neighborhood wants and everyone likes, and of course everyone has different outlook on what elements that they like and don't like. So when Sandra said that this should go to the DRB committee, I started thinking to myself, why a fence like that, why would it go? And then I started thinking like, wow, this maybe doesn't really fit in with the style of the neighborhood. So that's why I'm proposing a different fence that is real common in the neighborhood. So last minute I brought it on and I got some pictures. Should
Okay,
I
yeah.
show you?
Oh, he has a picture up there.
Yeah, but we can also pass it out if you
Yeah.
guys want to handle them.
So in between the columns, instead of doing the slats with the brass, I'm just going to do the standard wire fence if it's approved.
Okay. In between the columns
In between the columns.
with
yeah.
the pots?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's a photoshopped image of it. Those are actually the columns that are there and that are existing right now, and I just added the fence in between them.
And how tall is that piece?
It's going to be 32 inches. Some of the columns right now look a lot taller than 36 inches. It's just because I haven't done the grading yet. So once I get the grading all right, all the columns will be 36 inches or less. There's actually one column that I'm going to have to pull the cap off and lower because they went one block too high. But the columns will be 36 inches, the fence will be 32.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody have any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, can you give us, this looks very appropriate, and can you tell me what the size of the mesh is that's represented in the
You know, I don't know the exact gauge. It's a little bit thicker. It's going to be the exact gauge as the picture, but I don't know the gauge. I should have got that information.
I guess why I'm asking that question is that it's still very transparent. I can see through, and that's a nice quality, I think. If I were to guess, maybe it's somewhere in maybe like a 3-inch by 3-inch or something. Is
Oh, the tubing's going to be 2 by 2 on the
Not
outside.
the tubing, but the actual.
Oh, the opening, maybe 2 inch
Artwork.
by 2 inch.
Okay.
Yep.
So maybe that might be one of my only comments would be to make sure that it's at least that density.
Oh
and
yeah,
nothing-
it won't be
nothing
smaller.
less. Okay.
Yeah.
But very nice, and it would be very appropriate with the,
That's
the,
what I
the
think.
steel features and stuff
Yeah.
that you have on the house. So.
Thank you.
Okay. No more questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Does any of the public have any comments that they would like to come up and share? Okay, then we will close the public comment section and move on to our discussion. Barbara, you have any thoughts?
No, I have, it looks nice, it's not offensive. I don't think it's out of character for the neighborhood. I agree with it.
Okay. Jared?
Only other comment would be that it's represented as black, and that's very consistent with the home. I think maybe we would make a condition of approval that it would remain
Okay,
the same color here.
okay. I'm not really a fan of the fact that I can't support the idea that the flower pots are so much, going to make the post so much taller. We have a 36-inch limit, and the averaging thing works if it's a little bit different or there's a little bit of a slope. But when you have such heavy columns with something heavy on top, to me that doesn't balance out, especially when you've even gone to a lightweight mesh. So that's my concern with the project. Anybody else have that concern?
I guess the flower pot is a fixture, is.
No, it's just a flower pot that
cement.
sits on the column. Just as if I
Okay.
built the fence without approval of flower pots and I decide to buy a pot and set it on there.
Okay.
I mean, it's just going to add beauty to the house with flowers draping down on the columns. It'll hide, with the flowers and the vines draping down on the column, it'll soften the stone column a little bit. And I
Okay.
think it'll only add beauty to the neighborhood. I'm a landscaper by trade, so my yard's always going to be perfect. And then John Ritter's next door is always perfect. So that
Nice.
corner on Washington's going to look great.
Yeah. So how many pots we're gonna have?
There's
Just
one
the
on
two?
each column.
Oh,
There's
you want
14
each-
columns.
14 columns, so there are 14
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
That's gonna take some maintenance for you.
Yeah, I'm have a guy that's what I do for a living.
Thank you.
Will
so,
they be?
so it'll be kept. I could understand if you were worried about them not being kept up and being an eyesore down the road, but honestly, it'll just add beauty because that's my passion is landscape.
Will they have water?
Oh yeah, there's drains and water and yeah, it's done right. See the pipe sticking up on the picture? There's one that's a drain pipe and one's an irrigation pipe.
Okay, wow. Okay, anybody else?
I'm neutral on the plan.
And the pots that I'm putting on are really shallow. It's not like they're big giant pots. They're really shallow.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I guess to address Chairman Cook's concern, how tall is the pot?
I haven't purchased them yet, but they're
Yeah.
going to be anywhere from 8 to 10 inches.
Okay. All right.
The one in the picture, on the other picture, is about 10 inches, but I don't like that one, so it was just a sample so I could Photoshop it to show you something. Yeah. And then on the upstairs, where the trellis is, where that big black area is, that's going to be hidden because that's a planter box all the way around, so I'm going to have draping vines coming down the house.
Oh, nice.
So then when you see the flowers on the pots and the draping vines coming down from upstairs, it's really going to be beautiful.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate his comment and his expertise in the field. So I just have a problem with this house not fitting into the Old Town character, but it's so far beyond that right now that I don't feel I can do anything at this point. So if somebody wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the revised application with the architectural mesh and steel perimeter fence, a height limit to 36 inches, color in the black to tie with the remaining portion of the house, with minimum opening of at least 2 inches square. So I think that covers most of the items that we have discussed.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No one opposed. Okay, thank you.
You can go. We'll be in touch with next steps.
We will move on to, welcome back, Mikhail. We will move on to 18-1745, 6490 Washington Street, design review for modifications.
Wonderful. Thank you. So this evening, this application is for 6490 Washington Street, which is the Priest Ranch Tasting Room. And you may remember that in March of 2017, the ZDRB recommended approval to the Town Council for several exterior modifications to the tasting room. And that project was eventually approved by the Town Council in April of last year. Now, the original project included several exterior modifications, including the rebranding of the space and also other changes like a new 10-foot wide sunshade trellis, a new patio access door, removal of the Tuscany stone that's associated with the existing kind of Tuscan style of the place, a new 2-story architectural metal mesh screen, among other items. And included in your attachments here is the staff report from last year that kind of described in detail what all those changes were. Staff received an application to modify those approvals and which changes the design to such a scope that staff felt like it was appropriate to bring this project back to the ZDRB to see what the revised design is. Now, most of the time here is going to be given to the applicant to kind of discuss one by one what each of these changes are. And so unless the ZDRB has questions for us beforehand, we're ready to give the applicant time to make their presentation, and then you can ask questions of staff
Okay.
or of the applicant if that works.
Does anybody have any questions of staff before we move on? Okay, we'd like to have the applicant come up and
Good evening. My name is Craig Becker, co-founder, GM winemaker of Priest Ranch in Somerset Estate. And we're back in front of you tonight because we decided we didn't like some of the things that we did initially to this project. Some of the items were very expensive and there was really no return for those items. So what we propose tonight,
Right there, just go left and right.
it's kind of a cleaned up version. So in the upper left here is what is existing right now. To the right of it is what we had approved. So there's a small 5-foot trellis, the metal feature that goes vertical on the building, and then the wood between the new door and the existing entrance. So what we're proposing now is just kind of a cleaned up version of what we currently have. Getting rid of the faux stone on the front of the building, putting in a new 3x4 door, and smooth finish on stucco. So eliminating some of the parts that maybe some of us didn't like on the board or that we decided we didn't like. So some of the revisions. Remove previously approved metals screening and woodwork from the scope for a cleaner storefront. I mean, that's really what we're trying to do, is update it and make it look nice and clean. Remove the 5-foot overhang from the scope. The shade will be provided by umbrellas that we currently use right now. Replace previously approved door with a bifold 3-panel door. Replace transom window on the south side of the building. Sorry, this is in the front. Replace the 3 transom windows in the front of the building above the new door. Stucco with a smooth finish trowel. Right now it's kind of a rough looking trowel finish. Eliminate the faux trim and the faux stone. Extend existing lavender plants to the sidewalk on the opposite side of the patio for uniformity, and replace the rose bushes, which everybody complains about when they get out of the cars. They get their clothes caught on them, with just some nice, pleasant, soft grasses. So we have existing on the left, what was approved in the middle, and what we propose on the right. So this is on the south-facing side of the building. So we have our door in the middle with two panel non-opening doors. And what we're proposing to do is take out the one towards the street. We need more space for wine storage. It's amazing every tasting room forgets to plan for wine storage. So we intend to build a really nice, visually impressive interior wine storage, like a nice cellar. So existing, I just did that one, sorry. I lost in my own presentation here. So you can see where the wine cellar goes in the bottom right corner of the building. Takes up that additional light that we'd remove.
Okay.
And it needs to be ADA accessible, so there's a certain size we need to have. Getting rid of some of the crawly stuff and putting in some lavender and some grasses. We still plan to move the bike rack from its current location on the north side of the building to the south side where this is looking at right now. So those seats would be gone. And removing the rose bushes and adding in the grasses. That's it.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions of the applicant?
Just one. On the proposed, with the new doors that you're installing, the proposed change,
Yeah.
on page 4 of that, is it going to be like that with no windows above it, or are you keeping the...
The transom, we are keeping the transom.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get a better shot for you. So if you can see the bottom left here, those three lights are still there
Okay.
above the door.
Is there any reason you wouldn't use a full scale, like floor to...
They're already 8 foot tall. It's enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Barbara, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Jared? Okay. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did anyone from the public have any comments that they would like to share? Okay, then I will close the public comments section and we can discuss. Mikhail, any comments?
No, I mean, I think it simplifies a long discussion we had, probably over a year ago, was it? March 17? And really just simplifies everything. So, yeah, I'm in favor of the changes.
Barbara?
Yeah, I like the cleanup. I think the landscaping, removing the existing and make the change, the roses and the bicycle rack makes it cleaner. I like it.
And I'm glad you're still keeping on the list to remove the fake stone. I appreciate that. Jared, any comments?
So I would agree that in the current reiteration, I'm not a fan of the fake faux
Yeah.
treatments and stuff, and I think that was clearly evident the last go around. I recall the last time that this came up, I didn't feel like it was quite a hit. I don't know. I wasn't particularly fond of the attachments and the appendages that were being put on here, and this one is far cleaner, but I think unfortunately it's gone a little bit too far. It doesn't have much character and stuff, and I thought the last time that you came to the ZDRB, there was a real stress on making sure that there was sun protection, and there was a lot of focus on that, and clearly this version doesn't have that, except for the umbrellas that is currently out there. I have no issue with the landscaping. I think that's a wonderful addition and stuff, but just losing it's kind of caught in between an identity crisis. I mean, if we take everything off that's there, then it has to be done in a really clean way. You know, for instance, on the left-hand side, taking off the shutters and stuff, the upper window doesn't have the right proportion and scale in relationship to the bifolding doors down below. That's probably what catches my eye the most.
I agree with that. But I guess they're called, what color is that? It's a light gray that it's going to be? The exterior? Can you come back up and?
Yeah, I don't think we picked out a color.
Oh.
just to tell you.
Oh, there was a little color
It's like a sandstone.
chip there. Okay.
Not all that different from the bed. Not exactly.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But the one last comment would be I fully understand the need for the wine cellar and stuff on the inside, but I guess I would not be in favor of removing one of the panels from the exterior. It just the two panel doesn't seem quite balanced either. So I totally understand function on the inside, but from a aesthetic on the outside, I think it diminishes the overall effect.
Okay. So we got a couple varying opinions. I wasn't a big fan of the other one, but it was more interesting. I agree that this is a little plain, but I think plain is fine sometimes. I do think the shutters would be nicer on, but that's okay. That's your call. I think the landscape improvements are a nice addition and that the front will look nice. So I would support what you're doing. So does anyone at either end here want to make a motion? Gail, you want to make a motion?
Please note that any motion, this would be a recommendation to the town council. The town council
okay.
will consider this again at their next meeting because it is design review for a commercial property. Any
okay.
significant
Okay.
design review, such as these for commercial properties, are also considered by the town council.
Okay. Our motion will be a recommendation to town council.
After you brought those comments up, Jared, I would agree that it could be a bit more interesting. Hopefully there's ways to incorporate maybe some ivy or something to just add character to the building, but they can go through that when they go through landscape hidden. But I would move to make a recommendation for approval to town council.
And a second?
I'll second it.
And those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Jared. Okay, thank you. And we can move on to 18-1746, review of general plan land use map.
Good evening. Tonight we are sharing with you the proposed land use map that is the result of many public meetings that we've had since the Envision Yountville process started back in February of 2017. And we've had close to 25 meetings, meeting with the town advisory group, the different boards and commissions, the town council, as well as community workshops. And at each of these meetings, we've posed questions to the community and received feedback that helps inform the goals, policies, and programs that are going to be proposed in the general plan. And we also explored different options on what the future of the community can look like. It included potentially rezoning the two Humboldt parcels from residential to commercial, rezoning the North Washington parcels from residential to commercial, and considering rezoning all or a portion of the 33-acre North agricultural parcel from agricultural to residential or residential reserve or even an overlay. We've looked at revising the development standards for some of the different neighborhoods, including Vista Condominiums and Toyon Terrace, but also for the vineyard abutting the Catholic Church and for the downtown core. And based on the feedback that we've received, we have three elements of the land map that we're sharing with you tonight for your feedback and comment. The goal would be to take this map to the town council at their next meeting and to get the approval to start the to have the environmental consultants start the environmental impact report on the project, and then we can continue drafting the general plan. So the three changes that are proposed are one to the land use map in terms of land use designation, and it is the 2 residential parcels in the Old Town Historic District on Humboldt that are vacant. And the proposal is to rezone them from Old Town Historic to residential scaled commercial, to require a minimum size of 10,000 square feet, which would mean that the 2 parcels are merged for a single commercial development, and to require 2 second-floor residential units to replace the lost housing opportunity on the 2 residential parcels, and then to prohibit alcohol and restaurant uses at this site. And that is a change to the land use map that came out of the all of the public meetings and different workshops. Another land use map change that is shown here is really just a cleanup, where it's looking at the north portion of Hotel Yountville, which is currently zoned residential scaled commercial, and that district does not permit hotels. This is developed as a hotel. So by resolution, the council has approved the rezoning, and it would be included as this update. That's more an administrative follow-through item and not really on the map for you tonight, as the other one is. And then the 2 other changes that are related to the land use map are related to the development standards, and they are for the primary commercial zoning district between California and Humboldt, and it's on the west side of Washington, where we see the vintage Villaggio properties. And the 2 proposals are to permit 3-story buildings in this area on the condition that the project and uses provide some level of community benefit. And that could be affordable housing, non-food or non-wine retail, standalone office, or other services that, again, as I say, benefit the community in some way. The other proposal is to provide a floor area ratio bonus in this same district for retail, professional office, or service uses. And again, the qualifier is that it increased business diversity and other benefits to residents. So that is something that would be explored in further detail as we look to amend the design ordinance and the zoning ordinances, if this change is proposed or recommended, and then it is included as policies in the general plan. So those are the 3 changes that we're sharing with you. Those are the only changes that came out of all of the community workshop. A lot of what we heard is the community loves what Yountville is, so there's not a whole lot of room for change. And so for now, that is what we'd be looking for over the next course of the general plan. So again, it's before you for feedback, discussion, and a recommendation for council.
Okay, thank you. Questions of staff? No? Barbara?
What's going on with the owner of the parcel up north of Crossroad? They desire not to be rezoned. How does that work if they don't want to be rezoned and the town's going to rezone it anyway?
No, that is off the table. We are not recommending a rezoning of any sort up there. It would remain agricultural for the term of the general plan.
Okay.
If the owners wanted to change the zoning, they changed their mind, they would come to town staff and ask for a rezone and a general plan amendment.
Okay.
But for now, it will remain agricultural.
Right. Mikhail?
Nothing for staff. No.
Okay. What was my question? So on the permitting 3 stories, it's going to specifically, it's not specifically on the condition that the project and uses provide community benefits such as, but is it saying it can't, is it saying it cannot be food or wine?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Those always seem to get grouped together.
Food and wine?
Yeah. I can see the
They're-
wine.
Yeah, they're usually
I don't understand
grouped
the
together
food.
because of what is a perceived oversaturation of those uses in town, and lodging would be the other one to add to that.
But we didn't include lodging.
No.
Okay. And the restrictions the concerns that we heard from the community regarding the 3 stories, you know, that it isn't 3 stories right on the street and all those kinds of restrictions, where will those be built in?
So those are policies in the general plan that relate to massing and other requirements to maintain view corridors and to have step back and limit the verticality. All of those are included as policies as to the design of three-story structures. So I think the way it's worded in here is that what's the project? So project design and uses meet some of these
So you're
conditions.
comfortable that there's enough guidelines in the design part to manage?
Yes.
What the community
What I should have done was
pretty strong
include each of those policies
Oh.
so you see how they're related. I tried to just distill it into a
about. Yeah,
simple little
we
paragraph.
appreciate that.
I think moving forward to council, I'll share those specifically so they understand how it's more interrelated and that
I think
they,
that would be helpful, because that was a big concern.
yeah.
When they showed pictures where there was a variety of heights and setback, people liked it, and then when they showed the three-story faces, straight up, people kind of freaked out, so that would be good. Okay.
Actually, one
Uh-huh.
or maybe two questions of Seth.
Sure.
There's currently no three-story in Yountville, right?
Correct. Oh, well, no, there is, we have three-story buildings.
the-
One is, yes. Maison
Oh,
Fleury,
okay.
that was it, yeah.
What's the minimum height requirement for three-story?
I think I would turn to Jared.
I know I was at, yeah.
What are we looking at? Something
Well,
over
you can have a
30?
maximum height, but I don't know if there's a minimum height.
Yeah.
And you can
Okay,
create,
maximum.
well, and that depends on which jurisdiction you're referring to. So as a reference, the county requires no more than 35-foot height limitations.
Okay.
Is there a height restriction built in? Is there a height limit built in?
There isn't, because that would be part of the design ordinance standards that are developed. And we don't really know what that is. We know that the cupola at the marketplace is about 35 feet, so that gives us some indication. We were looking at a potential height of 42 feet. It's something that still needs to be worked out as part of the process and what is appropriate for Yountville, obviously.
Yeah, 42 would be higher than anything in town, wouldn't it?
Mhm.
Okay. And when is that decision going to be made? Or how will that decision be made?
That is part, if there is support given to the policies and programs, that would be a discussion for when the zoning and design ordinance amendments come forward.
Okay.
So there are publicly noticed hearings that discuss height and review visual studies to determine if that's appropriate or not.
Okay, so that's still a discussion to be had.
Still to come.
Okay. And there are a few more. Hopper Creek has 3 stories. Hopper Creek Apartments?
Does it? The apartments at the south end of town?
No, the ones.
No. The
By the
condominiums?
They have them 3-story.
Hmm.
Are you sure? Sure looks like it.
Really?
When you walk by. Kind of in the center. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And nobody has any more questions? Is there anybody from the public who would like to come up and speak? You have to come up to the microphone and tell us your name.
Well, I'm Wendy Robbins Vogel, and I live on Creek Street, 2151 Creek Street. And my neighbor on the corner of Creek and Jefferson has done a huge renovation. I know you know the tree that fell on the house and did a little damage to my house also, but I had some questions concerning in his desire to put a second story on. And so
Those would be, if I can interrupt you, are these related to this issue that we're talking about right now?
I don't know, because I'm not hearing too well. I'm sorry, but what came up in discussing setbacks and so forth was this issue, and this may be the wrong place to bring it up. But I don't understand why they selectively decide 2 houses on a block in Old Town are the only ones that can have a second story. To me, that I don't know. My son just finished his renovation in New Orleans in an old part that's historic, and he said he didn't understand that either. That if which he did, add a second story, his neighbor could do it two.
Let me interrupt you because that's not related to the general plan parts that we're talking about now. But Yountville does have some very clear guidelines about second stories and how many second stories there can be on a street.
Right.
So if you want to go in someday and make an appointment, is that the best way? With somebody from the planning department, they could talk to you about it and explain.
Well, I
the guidelines?
understand that there is a rule, and I just don't quite understand the concept of, because it sounded to me as if that's sort of a little
But
bit
that's
of.
Well, let me share a little bit more.
part of this conversation.
Yeah, I just wondered some of these, why the rule was, or if the discussion had brought up.
As part of the Envision Yountville process, we posed the question to the community whether the 50% rule, which is what you're mentioning, should stay in place or not. And the 50% rule provides that no more than 50% of the single-family homes on any block, and that's both sides of the block, can be two-story. And we've the board has run into situations where that threshold has been met, and there's been a request to do a two-story, and so we thought it was worthy of discussion to see if that was a rule that still made sense for town. What we heard each time we asked that question was that the community liked the 50% rule because it allowed, I don't want to use the term rural, but a more rural community, because every building wasn't a more urban two-story right next to another, maybe more like New Orleans, like you mentioned. So that two-story rule is part of the existing zoning ordinance, and it's not proposed to be changed as part of this process.
They thought it was, gave it a more rural.
I thought it maintained the charm of Yountville, where some buildings are one-story and some are two-story, and that you don't see two-story buildings across the board. So yes, there was.
So in other words, if you aren't the first two people, you would lose out.
The
It
first
just
50%, yes.
devalues your property because.
Well, it doesn't devalue it; it just limits it.
For me, it would, but
But those have been that that ordinance has been in place for a long time, for many years. It's been on the books. It's nothing new. The 50% rule.
well, I just think people might consider what that does on a block.
Like Sandra said, it has come before the board and the community, and the community decided
I
that they'd
missed-
like to stick with that. They want it to remain the 50% two-story
Okay,
rule.
well,
so that is the way it stands.
I didn't realize that was coming up because there have been so many changes, and I still don't quite understand how that works out for the community. I mean, I can see where if you're not affected, that sounds okay. But I think if they think about what it does, if they're one of those that aren't the first two, they're, in other words, they have different restrictions. It's a different, you have a different zoning restriction if you're not the first two. So it's timing is really what it is. Yeah.
Okay. I will.
Okay,
Thank you for
thank
your
you.
comments.
What you're saying is true, but it's been going on in this town, and that's the way people want it. Unfortunately, it's true what you're saying. The first two gets the two-story, but that's what the community wants. So that's how we are stuck with it.
All right. So where I missed out on where I should have been to have input into this, I apologize for taking up your time because
That's okay.
I thought maybe this was the place. And when you were talking about two stories and changing zoning on various
We're
places
just
in
talking about a commercial zoning tonight.
Right. So I thought, well, maybe
Thank you.
that's how they deal with it. Or I don't know. but-
Well, we'll have different items before the town council. At their next meeting on June 19th, we're taking a proposed ordinance that would limit second dwellings as being two-story if certain conditions aren't met. And then the Envision Yountville draft plan will go before the community in October of this year, tentatively scheduled for October, so there's another chance to discuss general
Right.
plan items.
Okay, great, thank
So-
you.
And we post notice at the, here at Town Hall, at the Community Center, and at the post office, so
Okay,
you can
yeah.
follow what's coming before the ZDRB and council.
All right, I apologize for taking up your time tonight, because this wasn't the right place to do it, but I appreciate
Yeah, make sure you
Thank you.
attend the meeting
Thank you
when they
very
discuss
much.
that in July. Is it July?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We can discuss. Does anybody have any? To me, all these steps have been very well covered through the meetings and support. Anybody have any comments about the general plan use map?
I'll start with the two parcels on Humboldt and stuff. I know as we have discussed those in public forums, and it's a unique shaped lot. It engages kind of the main streets, and so it feels more of a commercial. I think it's a win-win situation on that one, where we're able to get some of the commercial uses, yet don't lose out on some of the housing up above. So I'm very pleased with how that's kind of settled out and what's been recommended. The second item was the kind of the bookkeeping item, and I agree with the Yountville Hotel parcel. I guess my follow-up question would be, doesn't the hotel extend to the southern Teal parcel as well? And I know that's a mixed use, but can you?
Right. So what is currently zoned, and I'm going to try and pull my John Madden here. This area here is already zoned planned development. Oh, here's my easier way of doing it. There we go. And so, but the whole property is this teal portion and this current purple portion, in order to be consistent with current zoning rules and what council direction was years ago when this was developed. That only that top part is being rezoned.
I don't think I'm still quite following. So isn't there a portion of the hotel that extends onto the cyan teal section there that's not being proposed as the purple?
Right now we're proposing to get rid of the purple and make the purple cyan.
Thank you. So it's going opposite.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
this is
Good
what it
match
currently
colors.
is. This is what it currently is.
Perfect. Okay. I was reading it the opposite way. Thank you for the
And this
clarification.
is now the new color.
Wonderful.
Before,
Outstanding.
after, before, after.
Nicely done.
Okay.
All right. And then as far as the use for the commercial zone for going additional stories, I was definitely in favor of that. And I realized that the tool here is about discussion of use and the implementation and the policies that support how to actually execute that is at another. So
Phase 2.
I'm aware of the process, and so just on the surface about the use, I think I support it. So
Excellent.
I have a question on the third bullet point for the FAR ratio. How is the use of a space and the FAR ratio related in terms of FAR being something to block visible and make sure that we don't build out the look? How would the effect of the actual space, the business, why would that make a difference?
Do you want me to address that?
Please.
Sure.
Or okay.
Go for it.
I didn't know if you were asking the board or
Go for it.
So
Whoever.
currently, the town has policies in kind of the same realm, where you can get an FAR bonus, meaning you can develop a little bit more than we would traditionally allow if you're putting in affordable housing. In some of the primary commercial areas, if in part of your development you're also putting in an apartment or putting in some office space, a use that we don't see much of in town, and we generally, the community sees as a benefit to the town. They kind of give that FAR bonus, saying we're okay with a little bit more massing on the condition that that new massing results in this use that the town needs, whether it's affordable housing or office space. What this bullet you're considering here is taking that a step further, saying, what if we introduced the idea of some kind of other professional use that isn't just office, but might be some kind of service industry that we don't see here in town, that we need something that isn't wine or food related, or if we wanted to add lodging related, we could. It's just kind of taking that already existing policy and applying it to the potential of new development in
Opening it up
further.
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Did that answer?
Yeah.
Your question there? Okay. But it is important to note that this would be tied to development. And so if 20 years down the road someone develops that and then they want to sell, that is still going to be tied to it, saying, okay, whoever the next tenant is or the next occupant, it better not be one of these restricted uses because they got the FAR bonus for one of these approved uses that would run with the property.
So is there a link where, I mean, to use an extreme case, I wouldn't want to throw a retail space on a third floor. So is the floor area ratio bonus something for that's accessible to the public? Is there a
Good point.
Is there a trigger that could be integrated in here so that it's defined as approachable or?
That can always be added. Again, we're kind of getting
Right,
close
exactly.
to what that phase two.
Yeah.
These are written as the "Are you open to it?"
Yeah, right.
And then the phase two is the "Okay, you're open to it. Now let's write the thing." And that's actually what the ZDRB, since Sandra mentioned that that's modifying the zoning and design ordinances. Well, this is the zoning and design review board, and so this is some heavy lifting that's going to happen in the next year once the general plan is adopted. But to answer more of that, our community discussions actually kind of lend it to, well, if it did go 3-story, maybe the first story can be that busier retail that gets more traffic. The second story might be able to be more of that office space with just the occasional visitors. And the third story can be the very, very few visitors or residents type of thing. And people were open to those ideas. So we can be as specific or not specific as we want to be when we do draft the tools.
Okay, so all that specificity comes in phase 2.
Yeah, as hard as that is, specificity, phase 2. Phase 1 is you're looking at the forest.
Don't you love that we're all just chomping at the bit for that?
Oh, I know 8 other people that are chomping at the bit, too.
I know, it's
Why they'd
good.
like to be on the board.
Okay, any more comments, concerns? Make a recommendation, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this
A
is another
recommendation to
recommendation
town
to the town council.
Okay. I'll put through a motion to make a recommendation to accept these revisions to the general plan land use map as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go.
Enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic.
Well done. Okay, we can move on to staff and board reports. And I would just like to say, unfortunately, this is the last meeting for Karen, who's not here tonight, Barbara, and Jared. And it makes me sad. Because you guys have been a great help, and I really appreciated your being here, the thought and the effort that you put into helping the community and making a difference in town. And I'll especially miss your expert advice for sure. But thank you for helping out when you did.
Thanks.
You're welcome. It was as I say, it was a privilege to work with the town hall.
Thanks.
Round 2 was as good as round 1. So.
If the board doesn't have anything else to share, staff just has a few updates to let you know about. The town advisory group, as you know, is on summer break right now. They didn't meet and won't meet next month either while we are drafting the general plan. And so we're hoping in August, realistically September, to get a draft ready for the tag to review. Then there's also going to be the community open house. That'll be similar to the workshops where they can come in to see this draft general plan. Then following all those, if any edits are needed, those will be made. And then it goes on tour to all the different boards and commissions, ultimately with the ZDRB and then the town council for adoption in the fall. So that's the timeline with the general plan. When it comes to the ZDRB, staff echoes the thank yous to members Alan and Denton and Laz for their service. We will be adjourning the July meeting unless well, right now there aren't any applications
And there's
that
only
are
2
in.
of
So
us,
unless they come in tomorrow, They will be heard in August with the 3 new members of the CDRB. The town council will be interviewing many applicants in July, and we'll see what goes with that. At the July 17th meeting, put it on your calendar. July 17th at 6 o'clock, the town council will be offering just certificates of thank you to members Denton, Laz, and Allen. So please make sure you attend that so you can receive the certificate and the extra thank you that they're undoubtedly going to provide.
Will do.
What's that?
Will do.
Oh, okay, good. With that, those are all the updates that staff has.
Okay. Then I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting. A second.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.